All right, so y'all know I'm an environmentalist.
No.
Through and through, and I would have to say that Meg Lowman is probably the most accomplished person in my space that I have ever introduced. She is the discoverer of the 8th continent. That's our way of saying she has opened to us a knowledge of the canopy and everything that's up there in the astute scientific sense, understanding canopy ecology, all of the cycles and nuanced interactions, as well as just raising awareness about the canopy to the general public. How many people here have walked on the canopy walk at Mayaka? How many times?
I want to too.
You can drive with me.
Were you say something or just say you?
I've been elsewhere on the campus.
Oh, so have I. Actually, I have too. But she's responsible for the preponderance of canopy walks in the world. So I am going to read a brief paragraph about her from the leaf of her book. She's known as Canopy Meg, is an American biologist, educator, ecologist, writer, editor, and public speaker. She's executive director of Tree Foundation right here, which is very respected, and a professor at University of Singapore, Arizona State, which is a great university, and University Sains Malaysia. Her nickname is the real life Lorax, as referred to by National Geographic, and Einstein of the Treetops by the Wall Street Journal. And her logo is No Child Left Indoors. Now we had lunch together. Do you remember who you and I have in common?
Yes.
Joe Connell. So my mentor for undergraduate school, who steered me into my doctoral program, was Joe Connell. And Joe, like many ecologists, knows all the ecology stuff, but needs somebody around who knows the names of all the species. And Meg played that role for his work in Australia. And then when I was almost drooling at Applebee's, it was at Gecko's, at this lunch arranged with Andy Lyman, and Tim was there, because she has met everybody that is famous in my field. She has a lot of them on her board. The back part of her book has quotes about her from Jane Goodall and Peter Rabin. So we really have a star. And I don't think I used too long. But here you go.
I'm going to give you the annual report from the Tree Foundation. Memorize it, Andy, and bring it back tomorrow. Here you go. Charles. I said Andy Lyman. Charles, there you go, your homework. There you go. Thank you so much. I'll grab my water too. Maybe I talk faster than you, so I'll get just as much in.
You're going to be over here.
That's right. Anyway,
And here's your forward.
ready to roll. So you asked question number 1, how many went to Mayaka?
Yes.
It's 25 years old.
Wow.
Any of you who didn't go must be you're under 25, right? Because otherwise you would have been there by now. So I thought I would just talk a little bit about local and relate it to global. I just came from a morning workshop at Oscar Scherer. Anybody ever been to Oscar Scherer Park?
Yeah.
Anyway, they're gonna build a kids' treehouse with a spider web that you can jump on and a little mini walkway for kids. So get ready for that, because they're gonna need Rotary help. For Mayaka, we had so many Rotarians that hauled the timber from the parking lot to the actual site, that helped us stain it, that helped cut it out. So it was a real community experience. So maybe you all can think of a way to be part of our kids' exploration place down at Oscar Scherer pretty soon. But you knew what a scientist was. There's a scientist, here's a scientist, but here are the real scientists. These 3rd graders from Pineview School went out to Mayaka and made pictures of what they saw, and all of them drew the same shape of hole in the bromeliad leaf. This was a couple years ago. And it turned out they found a new species of weevil. So these kids are published in the scientific literature. to name a species at age 10. So you don't need a PhD and you don't need to be old to be a scientist. All you need is the ability to see and observe. And that's one thing that canopy walkways do, which has been really fun over time because kids need trees. Kids like trees. They can climb trees. They can explore trees and hopefully maybe discover a new species. After I built that walkway in Mayaca, which again was a big community project with Rotary, the Downtown Association actually proposed it. Remember Senator Bob Johnson? Anybody ever know him? Oh, I miss him. He was the one that pushed me to do it because I had built the first one in Australia when I lived there, and he's like, "Well, Meg, we want one in the United States, and it has to be in Sarasota first." So we did fundraise for that. Everybody gave. Sertoma, Rotary, Sunday schools, 5th grades, 3rd grades, and I was at New College at the time, and all the students did curricula. They brought teachers out. They got the first student grant from the Community Foundation to train teachers in canopy science. So the students taught the teachers, which was really exciting. One funny story, we took the Riverview Middle School teachers and they went out in canoes and they all tipped them over. They got soaking wet. They were so embarrassed and the students laughed hysterically. But half of these students of mine from New College, of which there might have been about 60, became teachers. So that also tells you something about that business of doing it, trying it, getting your hands dirty. It was a very powerful experience for them. And so right now we're raising $150,000 to try to give a facelift to the walkway. At age 25, it needs just a few things. We want to make sure it's ADA accessible, meaning that what you see at the top can be seen at the bottom just with a camera, and all the signage at the top is repeated at the bottom. And we're not going to put in an elevator. It wouldn't be quite right. But this case, we can do a lot of things. We can probably even broadcast back to schools. And we're going to stain it and put a little bit of new stainless steel so that it's good for the next 25 years. And we're over halfway there. 2 of our 4 major foundations, names will not be told, have given, but the other 2 did not. So anyway, dear, oh dear, we're still hoping to do some things to get enough money to give this facelift to the Mayaca walkway, which will be really great. And then we'll be on our merry way to try to fundraise for a little tree house for kids down at Oscar Shearer. You mentioned some of my friends, and Jane was a really good friend. One of her last efforts in life, God bless her, was to write this back cover review of my newest book called Tree Day, and I'm so grateful because she kind of later in life said, "Oh my gosh, I never knew trees kept my primates alive." So she wrote a whole book called The Seeds of Hope. You might have it if you follow Jane, and there's a kind of, I'm like the pinup girl in her book because I taught her a lot about trees, which I was very, very honored to do, but she just didn't realize that trees kind of keep the world going. And so she became a real advocate for trees later in her life, amongst other things. And she was such a voice for nature that I don't know what we'll do without her, because I don't think there are too many voices for nature anymore, which is kind of scary. That's the book actually that she wrote when she gave credit to the trees keeping her primates alive, which was kind of cute. And there's my picture she put in her book. So I did the weirdest thing. My mother, well, God bless her, she just died last year, but she always said, "When are you going to get a real job?" Because I really was a tree climber for a living. And I loved trees as a kid. Some of you probably have read my memoir. Thank you very much for holding it up. And anyway, because I never talked in school, but I loved nature because nature doesn't bully you. It doesn't talk back. And so I did love trees. And it dawned on me that, first of all, I started forestry school at Duke. Holy cow. All male, all wanting to chop the trees down. I know we need to do that. I love timber, but there's more to it than just chopping them down. So I dropped out of Duke and I went off to do my PhD in Australia, and lo and behold, when I got to these giant rainforests, another quiz. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a tropical rainforest. Ooh, that's a pretty good record. They're high, aren't they? 200 feet, 300 feet in Asia. about 250 in Australia. I looked up, and I'm from Elmira, New York. Anybody ever heard of that? That's where the big prison is. That's about all that's in Elmira. And lo and behold, our trees are 100 feet tall. I could see the top of my maple tree in the backyard, even though I couldn't get to it. But I realized that all this study of botany for hundreds of years, they only saw 5% of the tree. Nobody ever saw what was at the top. And they only saw it if they cut it down. Think about that. Just kind of, I call that hit you over the head science. It does not take a genius. It just takes common sense. You come from Elmira, New York, you have a lot of common sense, or else you don't make it. So anyway, I realized that no one ever knew about the top 95% of the tree. So I got a piece of metal and I welded it into a Y shape. And I got an old piece of seatbelt webbing from the dump at the Sydney University. There was a great old car place at the edge of the campus. And see that blue harness? I sewed that myself. And I made this harness slingshot out of a Y piece of metal. And I borrowed a rope from the caving club and I went up a tree. So literally I was the world's first arbonauts. You know, astronauts explore outer space. Aquanauts underwater. Well, guess what arbonauts do? Top a tree, right? So there I am going up these trees, scared out of my wits for the beginning, but then I got pretty good at it. And so lo and behold, suddenly I realized, guess what? My children couldn't come with me. My mom with her walker couldn't come with me, but I could go because I was a little bit fearless. So I ended up designing this first ever canopy walkway in Australia, I mentioned before, in Queensland, Australia. Anyone been to this one? Lamington National Park? Outside of Brisbane. Put it on your list. It's really cool. Anyway, this is the first in the world canopy walkway. And the Ecotourist Lodge owner and I designed it on the back of a napkin, having drunk a beautiful bottle of Australian red wine one night. That's how things get invented, right? Wine helps. But this walkway, since then, has spawned a whole global necklace of these walkways. I came back from Australia. I built a very small one as a professor at Williams College, and lo and behold, came down to Florida, and you know the rest of that story. Ran into Senator Johnson and the late Bob Richardson, and actually Mike Pender, the three of us, Bob Richardson, Mike Pender, and I all sat down, probably had several bottles of wine, and said, we need to do this. And so lo and behold, Mike was, of course, the finance guy, Bob was the visionary, and I was the kind of construction expert. So we ended up building this little tiny, 100 feet long, but it has generated 500,000 visitors a year to Sarasota County, over $30 million in revenue from the generic revenue, meaning hotels, people who fly here to go on this. Over 200 national newspapers have featured it over the years after it was built. So, and lots of students have made discoveries up there, which is very, very cool. So we have the only one in the country. It's great to renovate the Opera House or the Symphony or anything else, but we have the only and the first canopy walkway in North America right here in Sarasota County. So nobody can ever take our place. So that's
still the only one?
the first. Okay, and so the only one to be first, to make that clear. There are other ones. Everybody's copying us. There's Arnold, one in Holden Arboretum. There's one in Vermont, one in New York State. There is one being planned in Elmira, New York. How do you like that? So that's amazing. And there's a big long one, 1/4 mile long in the Amazon. And I don't think any of you have ever been with me there, but yes.
I've been there.
Okay, you've been, but this is my 35th year of leading a trip every July, including when we built the Mayaka Walkway. We took the Boys and Girls Club kids on a beautiful scholarship trip, and it was amazingly life-changing. But this 1/4 mile long walkway, every July I go for a week with teachers, students. It's very low cost so that people can afford it. And again, especially for teachers, it's really life-changing. So already we have folks that are signing up for next summer, and to see the Amazon canopy, as you can imagine, it's kind of like for every beetle in Mayaka, there's 100 down in the Amazon. So you really got to keep your eyes open. And so at Oscar Shearer, meanwhile, we'll be closer to the ground. But I just brought in the world's expert treehouse builder. He's from Portland, Oregon. Jason Lindsay, he's staying with me. I really want to build one at my place, but talk about HOAs. Oh my gosh, I don't guess I'll get very far. But Jason is going to help Oscar Shearer build something like this where you don't have to be 100 feet off the ground for kids. You just have to experience nature and be up there a little tiny bit. So we're pretty excited about getting this underway in the next couple months. And accompanying it, I mentioned, is the spider web. This one is actually up in Quechee, Vermont, in a beautiful walkway. But it's just, again, it's a kid's thing. But as a big kid, personally, I love jumping on that thing. And you can put an exhibit about spiders next to it. You can teach kids so much from all these fun activities out in the trees. So what have we learned from all this? Well, I think you might have mentioned the fact of the day. Thank you very much. But over 50% of life on Earth lives in the top of a tree. You have a tree in your backyard, I can almost guarantee you have a new species up there. And I'm almost sure that you probably haven't been sitting up there for hours at a time to find it. So now you have something to look forward to. And so with all of these species, you know, so many have medicinal value, others have value as pollinators, and of course many, many have value just as keeping the forest healthy in terms of being a big quilt of species. And as you can see on this slide, we know less than 10% of them. There aren't too many arbor-nuts in the world yet. So we need a lot more kids to grow up and become scientists if we are going to discover what lives there before they become extinct. And why? So what's important about a tree? I always challenge adults to this 10 times challenge, I call it. But kids always do it better than adults. I'm sorry to tell you this, but I tell fifth graders, memorize this list and go home and tell it to your parents. And I say to you, memorize this list and take it to your next cocktail party. It's going to be a big hit at the Christmas party. And because this is what trees do for us. They give us fresh water. It cleanses through the canopy and becomes fresh. They give us oxygen from sunlight. They give us timber. They give us food. What's your favorite food from a tree?
Apples,
Apples,
oranges,
oranges,
Mango.
mangoes,
figs,
figs.
syrup.
My favorite is at your party. Chocolate! Gosh!
Chocolate grows on trees.
Can you believe that? I mean, who knew, right? Every fifth grader knows that, and now every Rotary member here knows that. So lots of cool things. Medicines, 50% of our medicines have their origin from a tree or a leaf or a bark or an insect that ate the leaf. Soil conservation, the roots hold the soil. If you harvest trees, you get floods, as you know. Home to over half of the world's species, storing carbon when we pollute in our highways and our coal plants. The trees actually suck in that carbon dioxide, which is so great. Controlling our climate, cities without trees, these are all facts you know, are hotter and drier than cities that have trees, which are shaded and save you millions of dollars in air conditioning bills. And finally, trees have a spiritual heritage for 6 billion people in the world. That's quite a few. We don't do that in North America, but most cultures do that. And you can think about Asia and Africa and sacred fig trees and all sorts of things where trees are so important to religion. And as I mentioned, they're really, really important for kids. And here's some of my best kids. I did a 5-summer-long project with funding from National Science Foundation back in the day when it still existed. And we had kids that were mobility limited that we taught to climb with just pulleys. And they were so great. And this is Rebecca from Maine, and she discovered 3 new species in oak trees in Kansas. That's how easy it is to discover new species in a treetop once you get up there. And so I did write about that in my book. It's coming out in Spanish next year. You want to come to Barcelona for the opening?
Yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Let's go.
We'll be in
And,
Barcelona next year.
It came out in German last year, and it's come out in Chinese, of course, because they're so ahead of everything on science-wise. But anyway, it's been fun to share those stories, mostly because I think, sorry guys, but women need more help in science. In my field, it's still a hard call for women in science. So I thought if I write about all my misadventures, I call them, then it might help the next generation of women a little bit. And finally, just to close up, I wanted to share my biggest challenge with you, because I think we all share it, and that is, how do we save these forests we have? In my lifetime, 50% of the world's primary forests have been cut down or burned. Now, I don't know how old you are. Mine might be older than most of you, but that's still not a very good track record. 50%. Our kids are not very proud of that. So I started a program called Mission Green, and that is to try to build little mayacas around the world so that we can not only get people into the canopy, once you get them there, you help save the forests. And once we build these, we can give jobs to Indigenous people, and we can also get students to make discoveries. So I took my 45 years of experience, and instead of sitting in the padded chair, although I'm tempted to do that, just like you are, but you're not really, and said, what am I going to do with this crazy knowledge in my head? So I started this Mission Green because my friend named Sylvia Earle started a similar thing when she turned 70, and this is Mission Blue, where she brings attention to important spots in the ocean to save. And so I'm doing the same thing for the land, and Ed Wilson gave me the list. He said, Meg, here's the 10 most important forests. If we lose these forests, we're toast, because they contain most of the species. So we're doing a 10 by 10 by 10 by 10, I call it, raising $10 million to build 10 walkways in the 10 most endangered forests, to hire 100 Indigenous people and fund maybe 1,000 explorers in each canopy walkway. And guess what? We're halfway there. So this is great. We have finished in California, and we're designing in the Great Smokies with the Cherokee Nation. We fundraised up in Elmira, New York, if you can believe it. There's a walkway in the temperate forests of Vermont. There's a walkway in the subtropical forests of Florida. Did you know that? Called Mayaca River State Park. There is a walkway in the Amazon. We have designed a walkway in Brazil. We're in the midst of designing one in Mozambique, and we've designed one in Madagascar but not funded it. We have finished one in Malaysia. We have the site selected in Bhutan, but that's as far as we've got. And we have nothing so far in India except a lot of goodwill. So hopefully by the 2030, I'm going to come back and speak in 2030. I will be finished, okay? We can celebrate, and that will be my dream, because every kid deserves a forest. These kids live in Ethiopia, and they have no shoes, no pencils, no books, but they love their trees. And so we have to do this together. It's really, really critical, I think, to give every child health through trees. So with that, I will just close by thanking Jane again for being such an inspiration to all of us. And if anybody wants a book or two, I brought a few with me, and I'm going to charge you with memorizing the annual report and giving a little bit of a homework next time, okay?
Well, at least I'll use it as Cliff Notes.
That's what it goes. I love it. And I have 3 books out this year, actually. One is also for kids. It's called Canopy Meg Chronicles. It's just a little tiny storybook, but I had a student from the Ukraine, and she wants to be an environmental illustrator, and she's crying. She said, what am I going to do? I can't go home to Kiev. And I said, well, we'll publish a book. That's your ticket to getting a job. So she's the illustrator and the co-author, so hopefully that'll get her a job, because it's hard for young people right now, I think, to do a lot. So with that, Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Don't go away.
Yeah, questions?
Take some questions, Lee. I was also going to just mention that she'll be speaking when our district governor-elects come from, we have 9 different countries this year, and she'll be the speaker when we're at Mayaca.
It was the wireless one that was creating a problem.
Gotcha. Questions, class, before the quiz? Yes.
Are you going to take non-teachers on one of your trips to Amazon?
Absolutely. I always take non-teachers. I mean, I make it low cost so teachers can afford it, and I make it a week so that students, college students can leave their job without getting fired, but plenty of non-students come.
What about some of us old farts?
All the time, all the time. The oldest I've taken is 86 so far. The youngest was, if you're as young as 5, you have to have a parent present. But it's always on the Tree Foundation website, treefoundation.org. It'll probably get posted in January. And I can tell you already, it's the 3rd week in July. So it's super fun. I'm also leading a boat trip in November. It's more expensive though. November 30th to December 5th. It's National Geographic, the small boat for 40 people. So
Oh, wow.
if you want that, you better email me.